asked my husband for open relationship because I was cheating on him, but then he found out. And hello, Reddit. I'm here with my experience today. I don't even know where to start from because I want you all to understand what really happened. Have you ever been asked a question that just made you very angry? There are some questions that are not supposed to be asked at all. Have you ever been betrayed and deceived in a very despicable way? My wife had the audacity to ask me a very stupid question. I don't know where she got the courage from, but she did. My wife asked me for permission to cheat on me. Permission to cheat. I never knew that was a thing until my wife thought it was okay to ask me that. That woman betrayed me and made me regret all my life choices. I could not just let such a wicked woman go scot-free. So I made sure I got my revenge. I made her regret everything she did to me, and I smiled while doing it. You know that feeling of sweet revenge? That feeling is priceless. My wife got a taste of her own bitter medicine. Before I tell you all what really happened, I think it's best I tell you guys how I met my wife and how we got married. This will be a long ride, but I plead with you all to bear with me. My wife, F28, and I, M29, are high school sweethearts. Yes, I met my wife when I was in high school. I don't remember how old I was before I noticed her, but I know we have known each other for a very long time. I was one of the popular kids, and she was one of the reserved ones. I had a crush on her, but it was not a big deal. I had a crush on 3 other girls, too. Teenage boys have the tendency to be confused, and I was not an exception. I was not the type of boy who was shy to talk to girls, but when it came to my wife, I could not speak to her. We never even spoke in class. She was a bookworm. You know those types of girls that like to keep their head in their books till the bell rings? That was how my wife behaved in school. The first time we spoke to each other was when we were paired in a class project together. I remember how upset she was when they paired her up with me. She felt like I was not a serious person and that I was going to end up leaving all the work for her. She did not say this to me. She said it to her friend, and I got to know about it. I was not smart or dull. If I wanted to, I could get average grades by reading, but I was not one to spend my time reading books for too long. Like most teenage boys, I believed I was going to get a scholarship by playing basketball. I really believed I was going to be a basketballer. I realized that my wife was confident I was going to mess up the project, so I became involved in the project just to impress her. We started talking from that period, and that was it. We became friends, and that was all. I dated other people, and she dated other people too. Yes, we were just high school students then, but we still dated. It's not something out of the ordinary. In our final year in high school, I got scared of us separating when we went to college, so I told her I liked her. She was surprised at first and did not give me a quick reply, but after some days, she came around. That was how we started dating, guys. It was that simple. I got into a college in town, and she got into college and moved out of town. We still dated long distance, even though it was very difficult. After 2 years of long distance dating, we called it quits. I moved on, and so did my wife. I didn't really expect to see her again, so I got back to my playboy lifestyle. I did not end up getting a sports scholarship, so I studied philosophy in college. I know. How did I end up studying such a boring course? Well, even I don't have the answers. When I was done with college, it was hard to find a job. It did not help that I studied philosophy in college. I had to start doing side jobs till I got a job as a religious studies teacher in a high school. I still kept my side jobs because I was not satisfied with what I earned. Like I told you guys earlier, I never expected to see my wife again. So, when one of my old friends told me she was back in town, I was very excited. I wasted no time in meeting with her and catching up. She had a boyfriend by then, so it really broke my heart. Luckily for me, they broke up some months later. We started dating again after that. She told me she was just in town for a year and would be moving to Canada to go job hunting. I was worried about that because I knew there was a slimmer chance of us meeting up again. I tried my best to talk her out of it, but she had made up her mind. I was already in love with her back then, so I found it impossible to be away from her again. I was so desperate that I decided to follow her to Canada. Yes, I'm serious. I know that you all might be thinking that I am a fool. To be honest, even my own parents called me a fool after I told them what I planned to do. My friends thought I had gone crazy. I mean, who follows a girl he's dating to another country? But I was determined not to let her go again. I convinced my family that I could also find a job there and settle down. That's how I ended up in Canada with my wife. The first few weeks were very hard for me because I had no idea what I was doing. She already knew where to apply for jobs and who to meet. If she didn't, she would not have thought of going to Canada. I was the one who struggled to adapt because I came with no plans. I had money on me. I saved a lot from the job I had before Canada, so I was not broke. I just found it hard to get a job and adjust to the new environment. My wife and I lived together in a rented apartment. My wife got a job first, and after 3 months of searching, I got a job. We dated for 1 more year, and then I proposed. She accepted, and we had a small wedding. When I say our wedding was small, trust me, it was. We just had 2 or 3 friends there and the priest. It was nothing fancy because we wanted to save money. After getting married, we lived a simple life. We still had to save a lot, so there were no fancy dinners and date nights. It was mostly work, work, and work. We were in a foreign country, so we had to work hard to settle down and have a comfortable life. I worked harder because I needed to prove to my parents that I did not make a mistake by moving to Canada. 1 year later, my wife and I were able to get comfortable in Canada. We finally started going on dates and just casually spending time together. I loved my wife very much, and that did not get lost in our marriage. I never wasted time in showing her how much I loved her. I would cook for her, buy her flowers, and just do some romantic things. I'm not ashamed to tell you guys how much of a romantic lover I am. If I like someone, I'll want to make you feel like the only one in the world, lol. There's no need to hide it, especially when you're my wife. I wanted us to start trying to have kids, but my wife said she was not ready. I did not have a problem with it because it is her body and she had every right to decide when she wants a baby. My wife and I were living fine and just exploring life till it all began to slowly change. I'm a patient man who loves to give people the benefit of doubt. It's not like I'm gullible or stupid, I just have the tendency to put myself into other people's shoes. My wife started acting weird all of a sudden. I don't even think it's right for me to say it was sudden. There were signs before, but I was the one who ignored it. You know that feeling of annoyance that you just can't help but suppress? That's how I had to deal with my wife's mood swings. She got moody often and would snap at me for no reason at all. Listen, I left my hometown and moved to Canada for this girl. If I did that, it means I loved her. That's just me telling you how much I cared for her. So, when she started making side remarks and denying me sex at night, I just waved it off. Of course I waved it off. I cared for her a lot, and I was not going to let something so small make us argue. My wife took my patience as stupidity, and then she began to annoy me almost every day. I got back from work at 6 p.m. and left for work at 8 a.m. in the morning. I had no time for extra activities, but I always made time for my wife. But she decided to guilt trip me. I mean, how can I come back home at 6 p.m.? And my wife, who has been home since 4 p.m., did not make me anything to eat. If she is tired, I get it. I can understand that she wanted to rest after work, but does it make any sense that she would wait for me to come cook? She would tell me, "I'm really hungry right now. I need something to eat. Please make something for dinner." I was surprised because it made no sense. Anytime I asked her what she had been doing at all for all those hours, she'd say, "I'm tired. I had to rest." What about me? I just got back from work, so I deserve to rest too. I did not complain at first and made her dinner every evening, but after some time, I got upset and stopped. I would tell her to give me some hours to rest before I made dinner, and she would get into a screaming match with me. My wife would accuse me of being wicked and heartless because I did not cook her dinner. Yes, you read that right. I was being abused for not cooking dinner immediately after I got back from work. Some days I'd let her scream till she was tired, but I got tired of it and started giving her replies. I realized that all she ever wanted was to get me riled up, because anytime I got into it with her, she'd be so full of energy. She liked the disputes we were having. I thought I was overreacting and seeing things, but it was the truth. My wife was intentionally getting on my nerves. You know that saying, love can make you do stupid things? Trust me, it's true. I know this because I have done stupid things just to make my marriage smooth. I would apologize for not cooking dinner early and would start making it anytime she wanted. I did all the chores in the house and even cooked breakfast before work. I'm stupid, yes, I know. I did all these things because I loved that woman. I loved her so much I was ready to turn a blind eye to all the annoying things she did. But that did not seem to be enough for my wife. She had a mission, and that was to make my life a living hell. Imagine me, a man in a country he was still getting to know, being told that he was not trying enough. My wife complained that I did not take her out on dates often. I know you all might be wondering how I endured all these emotional abuse and gaslighting. Well, I did not endure it because I was so patient. I endured it because my marriage had to work. Do you think it's easy to drop your life and move to another country? Do you think my family did not promise me I'll regret my decision? Before I married her, I told myself we had to work. There was no going back because I had given everything to be with her. I did all that because I believed we would be together forever. Stay with me, guys. The good part has not even begun. One day, I had enough and was so upset I called my wife and told her I did not like the way she had been behaving. It took a lot of confidence to do that, trust me. I'm never good with confrontation, so I like to run away from it, but that day, I had enough. I did not know how I went from being the confident high school bad boy to a guy that was suppressing his feelings. I promise you all that it was not easy, but I did it. My wife surprisingly apologized and told me her actions were because she had a new boss at work who was giving her a hard time. She told me how hard her life at work had been, and that was what made her get so cranky and irritated. I asked her why she did not bother telling me, and she told me she did not want to disturb me and knew I was also busy with work. Busy indeed. If she knew I was so busy, why did she make me cook dinner and breakfast every day? I accepted her apology because I did not want to have problems with her. I had a lot to prove and fight for, and that was my only mistake. Let me say this, guys. Sometimes, giving your all to a relationship will only make you lose it all. Don't invest so much that you get scared of losing it all. That will only make you lose yourself. Life went back to normal, and my wife was back to being the kind and loving woman I knew. I still cooked and did all the chores, but I did not have a problem with it because my wife did not throw fits anymore. Everything was good till one day my wife told me she was going to spend the night out. I was shocked, and I did not like the idea of her doing that. I mean, she never slept outside before, so what was making her do that? First of all, guys, I had many questions running through my head that day. We had stayed 2 years in Canada, but we were still very much trying to get used to the country. I was worried about her safety, and I was also guarded. I did not want my wife sleeping outside the house. It did not make sense. She brushed all my concerns away and told me she was having a sleepover at her female colleague's house. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought sleepovers were for teenagers. Let's assume I'm wrong. But why would women who had work the next day want to have a sleepover night? I tried talking my wife out of it, but she ignored me and left the house that day. My ego was bruised. I'm not even going to lie. I was jealous and angry. I was jealous because my wife preferred spending the night at her colleague's place to staying home with me. I was angry because my wife ignored me and left the house. Reddit, I know you all have different opinions about different topics, and I know some of you might end up calling me a controlling husband. But let's be fair here. If I, as a man and husband, told my wife I was not going to be home for the night because I was going to have a guy's night with my colleagues, would that be right? Would my wife not get angry that I was not going to be home? Of course, she'd get suspicious. So why should I not have a right to feel the same way? It did not help that when I called her that night, she was so comfortable rejecting all my calls and switching off her phone. This is a woman I love. I don't care what anyone says, but ghosting your partner is very psychotic. You only do it because you know what kind of effect it has on them. You cannot claim to love someone, then you switch off your phone just so they can't reach you. The only regret I had was that I was seeing all these red flags only after we got married. If I had seen all these red flags before Canada, I would not have married her at all. I spent that night very upset with no way to reach my wife. Maybe I overreacted, which I'm sure I didn't. Was my wife right for ghosting me like that? The next day, when she got back, I tried having that conversation with her, but she told me she was tired and needed to go to sleep and go to work. What was she doing all night? Wasn't it a sleepover? Did it not require sleeping? My wife did not go to work that day. She stayed home and slept for hours. I asked her why she did not go to work, and she said she already took permission. None of it made sense to me because I did not see her calling anyone. Why did she have to tell me she had to go to work in the morning? At this point, I was already certain my wife was taking me for granted. Reddit, I don't think you are ready for what my wife decided to do 1 week later. For me, it had to be the biggest form of disrespect ever. My wife told me we needed to talk. I got back from work early and made dinner early so we could talk over dinner. Everything was going fine, and we were having a normal conversation until she suddenly said something that threw me off balance. She said, "I have noticed that we've been arguing a lot recently." I still remember those exact words because I was very interested in where the conversation was going. I said something along the lines of, "Yes, we've been having problems." My wife, who had been the cause of all our problems, told me I was the one at fault. She broke into tears and told me I was ruining our marriage. Yes, you read that right. She really sat there and cried her eyes out. I was so shocked I couldn't even afford to move. I did not believe she was serious. I waited patiently for her to laugh and tell me she was joking, but it never came. My wife made me feel like I was the problem in the marriage. She continued ranting and accusing me of several things. I did not say a word because I could not trust what came out of my mouth at that point. I just sat there and regretted every sacrifice I made to be with her. I knew that none of those sacrifices were worth it. I ended up moving all the way to Canada for a woman that lied through her teeth and tried to make me guilty for things I didn't even do. I was angry, and I had every right to be angry. I stood up and left the dining table. She tried following me, but I tried my best to stop her. She went as far as standing in front of me to stop me from moving. My wife said she was not done yet, and that she still had a lot to tell me. It took all the patience in me to wait and let her finish. She said she loved me so much and did not want to lose me. You know when a narcissist wants to make everything about themselves? That's exactly what my wife displayed. She spoke like our relationship revolved around her and I was just a passerby. Like I'm not also in the relationship. She said all she wanted was for us to get back to what our marriage was like before. To be honest, even now as I'm writing this, I still can't believe what happened that night was real. I read a lot about psychotic relationships, but I never imagined myself getting into one. This was a woman I loved. She said she asked some of her friends for help and they suggested an open relationship. Yes, I'm serious. My wife told me that she wanted us to have an open relationship. I told her I didn't want an open relationship and that she was overreacting. We did not need to get into an open relationship to fix our issues. She shook her head and said, if I was fine and was not interested in an open relationship, she did not feel the same way. I asked her what she meant and she told me she wanted to date other partners and wanted to explore. I felt like I was hearing something else, so I asked her again, and she repeated the same thing. I asked her if she understood what she was saying. I even explained to her that an open relationship could not happen if both the partners did not agree to it. I made her understand that if it was only one partner that was interested in it, it was cheating, not an open relationship. My wife shrugged. Yes, she shrugged, and told me I could call it anything, but she wanted to date other partners, and thought it was best to ask for my permission first. She said she did not want me to find out another way. It took me a lot of time standing there and staring at her to realize that my wife, who is legally married to me, asked for permission to cheat on me. At that point, everything seemed to make sense. My wife had been lying unnecessarily and gaslighting me, just so I would react, and then we would argue and have issues. She planned it all. She wanted to cheat, so she made us argue and have problems. She needed a reason to cheat. She wanted to justify her actions and make it seem like I am the problem. I could not even believe that the woman I loved so much was the same person that asked me that question that night. I thought somebody else was standing in front of me. I knew what she wanted and why she did everything to get it. That was the moment I promised myself to pay her back. I swore to make her regret everything she did to me. I swore to show her what real problems looked like. All the love I had for her seemed to get me irritated. I did not suddenly stop loving her. I mean, we all know it does not work like that. But I definitely felt resentment towards her. The next day, I walked up to her and told her we could have an open relationship. She was really excited and even asked me if I was sure about it. I told her I was sure, then left the house and went to work. When I told you all I swore to make her regret it, I meant every word of it. I was angry. I'm still angry. The audacity and courage she had to ask her husband such a question was what told me I had made a fool of myself. Fuck love. I promised myself to see to it that she regretted everything. I never wanted to cheat before, but since she wanted us to have an open relationship, I did just that. I brought another woman home. Yes, I brought another woman into our apartment and also slept with her on our bed. Yes, I slept with her on the bed I shared with my wife. I made sure we stayed there until my wife got back from work and found us there. I saw the anger in her eyes, but I did not care. She wanted an open relationship and I was going to give it to her. I knew she was seeing someone too, but I did not care. As far as I was concerned, my marriage was over. I was done trying to save a marriage that had no respect for me. She told me how disrespectful that was and that I took things too far, but I brushed it off and told her I got too carried away. I stopped doing the dishes and other chores in the house. I also stopped cooking for her. My wife got angry when she noticed everything, but she did not have the courage to speak on it. I noticed her irritation in the way she hissed and cured unprovoked. I stopped coming home early. I would go to sleep at my colleague's house or go partying. I was living recklessly at that point. If you think that was the only revenge I could think of, you're wrong. I carefully planned out things to make my wife's life miserable. One day, I got home and my wife was already there. She said we needed to have a serious conversation about how I'd been behaving recently. She told me I needed to stop sleeping out and bringing different women home. She also asked why I stopped doing the chores around the house. I remember getting so angry that day, I swear I almost hit the heat. But I didn't. I was raised better than that, and it was not worth it. I told her she had no right to tell me what to do because honestly, she didn't. That night, she cried herself to sleep. To be honest, that made me quite guilty. I was so guilty I actually started regretting everything I did to her. I decided to stop behaving that way and forgive my wife because I loved her so much. The next day, I woke up really positive and in the mood to help my marriage. My wife was not home when I woke up. I was surprised because I usually left for work before her. I brushed off the feeling I had and decided to clean up the house since it had been a mess since I stopped cleaning it. While I was busy cleaning the house, I found a phone under the couch. It looked like a new phone, and that caught my attention. I knew what my wife's phone looked like, and the phone I saw was definitely not hers. I tried unlocking the phone, but none of the passwords I tried worked at all. The fact that there was a new phone with a different password made me suspicious. I took the phone and hid it in my closet. That night, when my wife got back, I had already made dinner. She ate and went to bed immediately. I was so curious about the phone that I took it out from my closet and tried unlocking it again. The phone had a fingerprint lock, so I decided to use my wife's fingerprint while she was still sleeping. To be honest, I felt like it was a bad idea. I did not want to think about what would happen if she woke up and caught me trying to unlock her secret phone. I'd look like a fool. That didn't stop me from trying, though. I carefully used her fingers and it actually worked. She stirred in her sleep a little, but she did not wake up. Once I unlocked the phone, I practically locked myself in the toilet and searched through it. There were no pictures or phone calls, but there were messages. My wife's messages with a man whose name was saved as H. Yes, just H. The messages I read on that phone broke my heart. My wife was sex texting with another man. I know what you might be thinking. We agreed on an open relationship. But it was many months ago. Some of the messages even contained both of them setting up a time and date to meet up. This was way before she asked for permission to cheat on me. She just asked for permission so she could cover up her guilt. That's if she even had any. She wanted to have something as justification when I finally caught them. That's why she had been behaving weirdly for all those months. At that point, I did not have anything to feel guilty for. I was ready to do whatever I could to make her tear up very badly. The guilt I felt disappeared instantly. There was no need to feel guilty for a woman as despicable as her. My wife and I paid the rent equally because we earned almost the same amount of money. I took up extra responsibilities like buying groceries, water, paying for the electricity bill, and paying for Wi-Fi. We normally saved up for our rent for months, then paid it for the whole year. I knew my marriage was over and I despised the woman I called my wife, so I made sure I left no stone unturned. My wife had no idea I found out about her secret lover because I returned the phone back to where I found it. I pretended like nothing happened and went back to living life as I normally did. I no longer brought women into our home, and I continued doing the chores. My wife didn't suspect a thing because I did not give her a reason to. 3 months went by and I started saving all my salary. When I say all, I mean all. I did not put money aside for rent and saved as much as I could. I stopped buying the groceries, but my wife did not care because she hardly slept at home at night. A few months later, our rent was almost due. We still had 2 months before we had to pay, but I told my wife it was already time. She did not suspect anything because I usually paid the rent. She had no business with it. She gave me her money to pay the rent, and I took it. Of course, I did not pay the stupid rent. I kept that money in my back account. By that time, I was already planning how to get back home. When I say home, I mean the town I left, just to follow my wife to Canada. I no longer had any business with Canada because the reason I came there in the first place betrayed me. I was not interested in living an empty life in a foreign country when I could just easily go back to my home country and start my life afresh. 1 month later, I got everything I needed and had more than enough money to start my life afresh back home. The rent still had 2 more weeks till it was due, and I started getting calls from the caretaker. I assured him that I was going to pay and that we just had a delay in getting our salary. They sent me a message telling me we would have to vacate the house if we did not pay till our due date. I kept assuring them that it would not come to that. Exactly 1 day till the rent was due, I packed my belongings and left for the airport. That same day, I sold off almost all the appliances in the house. I had put them up for sale on my Amazon account for weeks and finally got buyers for them. I sold everything down to the couch. I did not go to work that day because I already sent in my resignation letter weeks before then. The only things left in the house were the things that were owned by the apartment and all the stuff that was too heavy to carry. I left Canada that day without my wife's knowledge. I blocked her phone number and switched off my phone. I knew that she was going to be sent packing tomorrow and she had no idea. All the rent money was with me. I left her with nothing. Absolutely nothing. Even if she had money on her or got a super rich boyfriend, which I strongly doubt, it will take her some time to recover from the shock. I did not leave a note or a letter. That's what she got for cheating on me, asking for permission to cheat and gaslighting me for years. I fell in love with her, my high school sweetheart. I loved her so much, I left my whole life and moved to another country with her. I was ready to forgive her after everything, but she had been deceiving me for months. It's been 2 months since I left her stranded in Canada, and I cannot say that life has been easy. My whole family spent hours telling me how I wasted years of my life on an ungrateful woman. My friends back home were very disappointed. Life was hard, but I tried my best to get back on my feet. The rent money helped, LOL. I crashed at my parents' house for a while before I got a job. I'm still married to my wife, but I don't plan on seeing her ever again. I will give her the punishment of staying married to me till she decides to leave Canada and serve me the divorce papers. I know she won't come back, and that's why I left. I don't plan on getting married for many years to come. If I change my mind one day, I will get married after finding my wife and divorcing her. Her punishment is that even if she wants to get married to her lover, they will never be truly married till she divorces me. In a way, she's tied to me forever. I don't know how to survive this because I practically built my life with her. Every day is a pain, but I know I'll get through it. Thank you all for your patience in reading this awful experience of mine. I know it was a very long story. Writing this brought back all the pain I felt. I know that there are people out there who can relate to this type of betrayal. I am lucky I was able to have my own revenge. I do not regret any of what I did to her. The only thing I regret is leaving everything for a woman I thought loved me. I'm sorry, Reddit, but I will not be able to make an update to this post. I don't plan on reliving this experience again. Whether or not I meet my wife and get a divorce, Reddit will not know because I don't know which day that will be. Thank you all, and goodbye, Reddit. I am a 26-year-old male who recently got married to a 24-year-old girl named Rachel. I mean, like exactly 3 weeks ago. I really thought that she was the one until my dreams of having the perfect marriage shattered. Everything seemed to be going well at first, but I soon discovered that Rachel had been hiding a significant secret from me. I found out that my wife had been cheating just a week after our wedding. This is what I did to get my perfect revenge. I met Rachel, my wife, maybe ex-wife, not really sure what to address her when I was 24. We both were in university and shared a few classes together. I was a nerd and did not pay much attention to my surroundings in university. I saw her at one of the university lectures that I was attending, and she was sitting across from me. I was so smitten by her beauty that I couldn't help but strike up a conversation with her after the lecture. She was not only beautiful, but also very smart and well aware of her surroundings. I could see that there were a lot of eyes on her when I started talking to her. I am not used to garner that much attention from people. She asked me a question which I did have an answer to, but I told her that I would get back to her on it. She snatched my phone from my hand and put in her contact details. I was very flustered by her actions. She came very close to my ear and said that she really wanted to know the answer. My ear turned red in an instant. She smiled and left. I could not get this incident out of my mind for days. I was contemplating on how I should get in touch with her. Should I just send the answer to the question, or should I ask her to meet me so that I could explain it to her? I decided to ask her to meet me at the university cafeteria to give her the answer. We had a lot of intellectual talks around chemistry. I was always aware that she had a lot of eyes on her. One thing that irked me about her was she never acknowledged our relationship openly in front of others. She also did not shy away flirting with anyone who showed even a slight bit of interest in her. This behavior made me question the authenticity of our connection and left me feeling insecure about our relationship. Despite our intellectual discussions, I couldn't help but wonder if she valued our bond as much as I did, or if I was just another person she enjoyed flirting with. She reassured me that she had eyes only for me. I had no choice but to trust her words. However, her actions continued to fuel my doubts. It was difficult for me to fully believe her reassurances when she consistently displayed flirtatious behavior towards others. I yearned for a relationship where our connection was acknowledged and cherished openly, which made me question if we were truly on the same page emotionally. She would openly flirt around with people to get her things done and come to me with love in her eyes. It was very difficult for me to read her. I wondered if she was this way with everyone, or was I special? Whenever my doubts rose, she would do something so special for me that I would think differently about her. She would make me believe that I was the one she wanted to be with. That made me both happy and filled with joy at the same time. She had this friend, Liam, who she told was her best friend. He was always around hanging out with her. As they had most of their classes together, I always found them together. Even when we would be on a date, he would either interrupt or come along with us. I had mentioned this to Rachel, that I don't feel that comfortable around him. She always dismissed it, stating that he is the one who understands her best and he really liked that I was her boyfriend. However, as time went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that Liam's presence was more than just friendship. There were moments when I caught him giving Rachel lingering looks or whispering things to her that made me uneasy. Despite my concerns, Rachel continued to assure me that there was nothing going on between them and that I was overreacting. We were on a date one day when, out of the blue, Rachel said that we should move in together. I was ecstatic. I had been hoping for our relationship to progress to the next level, and Rachel's suggestion made me feel incredibly happy and excited about our future together. The thought of sharing a home with her filled me with a sense of joy and anticipation, as we could now truly build a life together. Though it had been only 6 months for us, I felt that we were ready to take it to the next level. I was more than happy she was the one who had suggested this. All my doubts about her not being serious about our relationship vanished into thin air after her suggestion. It showed me that she was committed and invested in our future together. Moving in together would not only bring us closer, but also allow us to create a space that truly reflected our shared values and aspirations. I was so happy initially when we moved in together. She got her stuff and we tried to make it into our home. After the setting up, Rachel suggested that we should have a party. We called our friends over. Of course, she had much more friends than I did. As the night went on, people started leaving. At the end, it was just Rachel, Liam, and I. I was hoping that he would leave soon. I knew that Rachel would not appreciate it if I asked Liam to leave, so I was waiting for either one of them to realize that it's late and we should call it a night. As the night grew later, I couldn't help but feel a sense of discomfort lingering in the air. The exhaustion was starting to weigh on me, and I silently hoped that someone would suggest winding down and bidding farewell. However, the atmosphere remained lively, and I found myself anxiously awaiting a natural conclusion to the evening. I was almost dozing off when Rachel suggested that I go to the bedroom and rest. She kissed me goodnight and whispered, "Don't worry, I'll join you soon." Her comforting words eased my tiredness, and I obediently made my way to the bedroom, feeling grateful for her understanding and care. I woke up the next morning and saw Rachel was nowhere to be seen. I looked at the time and thought that she might have already left for her classes. I walked out of the room to see the mess from last night and clear it. As I walked toward the sofa, I saw something on the couch. I moved closer, still pretty sleepy and drunk from last night. It was hard to understand what it was. I slowly moved the comforter and was expecting it to be Rachel. As I moved the comforter, I saw Liam fast asleep. I was about to walk towards the kitchen when I saw something familiar. I moved the comforter further down, and there she was. Rachel was sleeping beside Liam with her clothes disheveled, and this brought me out of my hangover instantly. Memories of the previous night flooded back, and I couldn't help but feel a mix of anger and betrayal. I needed answers, but I also knew that confronting them in that moment would only lead to more chaos. I decided to leave for work, as there was no point in waking them up and confronting them now. I wanted them to be sober before I spoke to them. I left for work, but was filled with a mix of frustration and concern. It was difficult to focus on my tasks, constantly wondering what had happened the night before. As I anxiously waited for the day to end, I hoped that it was not what I was thinking. I quickly rushed home and noticed that Liam was still at home. I was both glad and angry. Glad that I could talk to both of them at the same time, and angry that Rachel did not ask him to leave. I asked them very coolly what happened last night. They both started laughing. I was getting impatient, and they were doing nothing to help me subside my anger. Rachel then told me that after I went to bed, they had a few more drinks and passed out on the couch. There was no way I was going to fall for such blatant lies. I was still looking at them to see if they would elaborate more on it. They just started talking among themselves about other things. It was as if I was invisible, and I standing there did not bother them. I could not take it anymore and walked into my room. After almost 1 hour, Liam finally left, and Rachel made her way into our bedroom. I did not pay any attention to her and was focusing on trying to read a book. She walked towards me and pulled the book from my hands. She then sat on my lap and started kissing me. I knew very well that I should not fall for her tactics and insist on more explanation regarding last night. But there was something about her that instantly made me think that I was the only one she truly loved. Maybe it was just a mistake. Maybe they were too sloshed to realize where and who they were sleeping with. After our steamy session, she said that if she knew that I was not the one on the couch, she would have found me and slept beside me. Though I wasn't fully convinced with their drunken story, I decided to let it slide. They had been friends for a really long time, and I know that things like these do happen at parties. I still had trust in my relationship with Rachel and wanted to give it a chance. It had been 1 year since we had been together. I decided that it was time for us to take our relationship to the next level. I had made all preparations to propose to her at her favorite restaurant with the cliché ring in the drink. I had butterflies in my stomach as I rehearsed the words I would say to her, hoping she would say yes. The thought of spending the rest of my life with her filled me with excitement and anticipation. I was panicking when the wine glasses arrived. I waited for her to take a sip and realized that there was a ring in the glass. When she did, she was still for like 15 seconds. I was scared that she would just walk away. I didn't know what was going through her mind. My heart had stopped beating in those few seconds. Finally, after a really long pause, she said yes and came towards me to kiss me. As we embraced, tears of joy streamed down my face. In that moment, I knew that our love was stronger than ever and that our future together was filled with endless possibilities. Rachel and I sat together to pick dates for our wedding. She asked that we should get married after she completed her degree. She was excited and wanted to be able to focus on all the aspects of planning the wedding without thinking about her assignments. We discussed the potential dates and agreed that it would be best to have the wedding during the summer break, giving Rachel ample time to relax and enjoy the celebration. Additionally, we decided to involve a wedding planner to alleviate any stress and ensure that everything goes smoothly on our special day. We shortlisted a wedding planner and also a few shops to buy other things from. I told Rachel that I would work on her assignments with her so that she has enough time to visit all the shops and venues to shortlist things. I was busy with my work and completing assignments for Rachel. I could hardly make time to visit the venues or the event planner. Rachel would take Liam along with her on her ventures. They were deciding on things on their own. I did feel a little left out, as it was me Rachel was getting married to and not Liam. I did bring that up to Rachel, expressing my concerns about feeling excluded from the wedding planning process. I explained that I wanted to be more involved and have a say in important decisions. Rachel understood my perspective and apologized for unintentionally leaving me out. We agreed to set aside dedicated time to discuss and make decisions together, ensuring that both of our voices were heard in the wedding preparations. The countdown had started for our wedding. There were 2 weeks left, and Rachel had to finalize her wedding dress. I wanted to tag along for the dress trial, but she said that it would be a surprise and did not want me to see her in the dress before the wedding. Liam had come to pick her up and they left. I did feel that Liam was getting too involved in the entire process, but as Rachel was being so comfortable around him, I decided that maybe he was also excited to see his best friend getting married. All the preparations were going as per the schedule, and there were no hiccups with anything. There was a dance that we were supposed to prepare for the wedding. At times, I would see Rachel and Liam practicing it when I was busy. I did feel hurt, but I knew that if I had been there, Rachel would be practicing with me. I made my peace with Rachel and Liam being friends and decided to focus on my own preparations for the wedding. It was important for me to remember that friendships can evolve and change, and that it didn't diminish the bond I shared with Rachel. Plus, seeing them practice together only motivated me to work harder on perfecting my part in the dance. Finally, it was the day of the wedding. I was restless and nervous at the same time, my heart pounding with anticipation. The months of planning and preparation had led up to this moment, and I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and jitters. As I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie for the umpteenth time, I took a deep breath and reminded myself that everything would be perfect. I was waiting at the altar with bated breath, scanning the crowd for a glimpse of my soon-to-be spouse. The room was filled with the soft hum of anticipation, and as the music began to play, I felt a surge of emotion wash over me. This was it, the beginning of our forever together. She finally walked in, looking absolutely radiant in her wedding gown. The room seemed to hold its breath as she made her way down the aisle, and I couldn't help but be overcome with a sense of awe and gratitude. In that moment, I knew without a doubt that I was about to embark on the most incredible journey of my life. We took our vows with trembling voices, promising to love and cherish each other through thick and thin. The words felt weighty and profound, as if they were filling our souls together for eternity. With tears of joy streaming down our faces, we exchanged rings, symbolizing our commitment to one another. It was a sacred moment, filled with the promise of a lifetime of love and happiness. The pastor asked us to kiss and seal the wedding. We danced just like we practiced and celebrated with friends and family around. We headed to our honeymoon suite and lawfully enjoyed our night together. The next morning, we woke up feeling refreshed and excited to start our first day as a married couple. We decided on a honeymoon trip 6 months after my promotion. I wanted to take her for an exquisite trip, which she would remember for her lifetime. I wanted it to be the best holiday of her life. We spent 2 days in the hotel that was booked by my parents. We went home and unpacked our bags. This was our first day in this house after we were married. We just lay on the bed, enjoying the feeling of being newlyweds in our own home. As we cuddled and talked about our dreams and aspirations, we couldn't help but feel grateful for the love and happiness that surrounded us. We knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful journey together, filled with countless more unforgettable moments and adventures. I started going to work 3 days after the wedding. Rachel was still on her summer break, so she was just chilling at home. I came home and noticed that Liam was already here. I thought that after our wedding, things would be different and he would give us space. However, it seemed like Liam had no intention of leaving anytime soon. I couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment and frustration, as I had hoped for some alone time with Rachel to celebrate our newlywed status. I was trying to convey with my eyes to Rachel to ask Liam to leave, but she kept ignoring my silent pleas. It was becoming increasingly difficult to hide my growing impatience as Liam continued to make himself comfortable in our shared space. I couldn't help but wonder if Rachel was oblivious to my desire for privacy or if she simply didn't want to confront the situation. I finally spoke out that it was getting late and Liam should probably leave since I still had to go to work tomorrow. Both Rachel and Liam looked shocked at my sudden statement. Rachel quickly apologized, explaining that she had no intention of invading my privacy and was genuinely concerned about my well-being. Liam, on the other hand, seemed taken aback and offered to leave immediately, realizing he had overstayed his welcome. I woke up the next morning and I saw that Liam was constantly sending messages to Rachel. I wondered if there was a problem or an emergency, so I decided to check her phone to see if there was urgency. As I was about to read those messages, Rachel snatched her phone from my hand and said that it was not cool to look into other people's phones. I was surprised by her reaction. I said that she doesn't need to be so defensive. It was just Liam and I was just concerned if he was in any problem. She dismissed it, stating that he was not in the right frame of mind and she needed to be there for him. She was very protective about him, so that is why she has been behaving that way. Well, he did not look disturbed or troubled yesterday when he was chilling out here. I made breakfast and left for work as Rachel was engrossed in her phone replying to Liam. I decided to get a few things straight today with regards to our space and how much of Liam's involvement would be appreciated. With that determination, I kissed her goodbye and left. I was working and the feeling of unease kept nagging at the back of my head. I decided to leave early from work and decided to take a walk. As I walked, I remembered one of the messages from Liam to Rachel asking her when he should come home. It was then that a sudden realization hit me, and I began to suspect that there might be something going on between Liam and Rachel that I wasn't aware of. I called in sick and left work. I reached home and saw Liam's car parked outside. My heart raced as I cautiously entered the house, unsure of what I might find. The sight of Liam and Rachel sitting closely on the couch, engrossed in conversation, confirmed my suspicions and sent a wave of anger and betrayal through me. I decided to wait and see what further unfolds between them. As I stood near the door, I saw them exchange a lingering glance before Liam leaned in and kissed Rachel. My world shattered in that moment, and I felt a mix of sadness and rage consume me. They started undressing each other, and I knew then that I couldn't just stand by and watch their affair unfold. I had to confront them and demand answers. I shattered the vase kept at the entrance. That brought both of them to reality. They froze and were shocked to see me at home at this hour. They had assumed I would still be at work, and the sight of me standing there amidst the broken pieces made their hearts sink. I was expecting them to panic and give me explanations, but what transpired was something I was not expecting. Rachel started laughing. Her laughter echoed through the room, breaking the tension that had filled the air. Confused, I looked at her, unable to comprehend her reaction. Meanwhile, Liam's expression shifted from shock to relief as he joined in on Rachel's laughter. I thought that I had lost my mind. I was left with disbelief at their reaction, wondering if there was something I had missed or if they were playing some kind of prank on me. It felt surreal to see them laughing instead of providing the explanations I had anticipated. I was raging with anger and asked Liam to leave my house immediately. I needed to talk to my wife alone. Rachel asked him to leave, and he did. I asked her to explain what she was doing kissing Liam. She smirked and told me to have a seat. She said that she needed a scapegoat to complete her assignments, and I seemed like the perfect candidate. Though she never showed any interest in me, I was the one always willing to do things for her. She was expecting it not to escalate to this level. But as time went by, she and Liam had decided that it would be funny to use me for all their needs. She used me to help her with finishing her degree at the university. I was feeling so devastated. She would have just asked me for my help instead of making me go through all this. She was smiling and laughing, disclosing all this to me. She even told me that I was such a dork who thought that a girl like him would even think of marrying a beauty like her. She could get any guy to fall for her just by flipping her hair. Liam had always been her true love. They made this plan of using me both intellectually and financially for their needs. She told me that I was not only doing Rachel's but also Liam's assignments. Feeling betrayed, I confronted Rachel about their ulterior motives. She confessed that she had been manipulating Liam as well, exploiting my emotions and trust. It became clear that our relationship had been built on deceit and manipulation, leaving me devastated and questioning everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. It was her idea to make use of me, and even if things went south, I could be fooled by some crap story that they could cook up. She was expecting to play along for some more time before she got bored of me and left me. It was getting more and more difficult for me to breathe, listening to Rachel coming clean about how she and Liam very carefully approached me for their own benefit. She told him how they had been goofing around with each other even in my presence, but I was so stupid to think that they were just friends. They enjoyed making a fool out of me and often challenged each other to hug or kiss in front of me without getting caught. Everything about the wedding was decided by them, and I was just there as a prop. She even told me that the day she went for her dress trial, they had a steamy quickie in the dressing room. She wanted Liam to be the first one to see her and feel her in that dress. I could not believe that she was the same girl who I had fallen for. After spouting all kinds of nonsense to my face, she went to our bedroom and took a nap. I was left there still, unable to comprehend what just happened. I must be dreaming. It's just a bad dream. When I wake up, all this will be over. I was still in denial that this was happening to me. There were a lot of red flags even during the preparations of our wedding that I had turned a blind eye towards. I now wish I could have been much more rational and decided to follow my gut. There were instances where many people I knew had come up to me and suggested that I reconsider the decision of marrying her. But me being me, blinded by love, I did not pay any attention to my friends' suggestions. Now, when I look back, I had so many opportunities to call off the wedding, but had been stupid enough to still go ahead with it. It was all in front of my eyes. Liam was always at home when I was gone. He would always tag along with us, and they would have hushed conversations. He would keep checking her out all the time while going to a party. They would sit too close to each other, often forgetting that I was also with them. It was all my fault that I was so blinded by love that it was all right there but did not want to see it. It took me 2 days to realize what Rachel and Liam had done to me. I decided that I can't sit here pitying myself. Rachel had left yesterday with Liam for dinner and asked me to leave the house before they were back. They did not even have the audacity to apologize to me for making my life into a joke. I made up my mind not to let this go so easily. I can't be Rachel's puppet anymore. I had to do something to redeem myself and not look like a loser. They had no shame and were laughing their hearts out after being caught cheating. I left the house and I was thinking of how I could take my revenge. I started thinking of ways to make them regret this. As I was scrolling through my laptop to find my options, I received a notification from Rachel's university for the deadline to submit an assignment. Oh yes, I completely forgot that I was still logged into her university account. And just like that, I knew exactly what I should be doing. I logged into her account and changed the password so that I have access to everything. I went through her subjects and looked into everything that needs to be submitted or completed before a deadline. I made a note of everything and started formulating my plan. I knew that she cared so much about graduating that she even faked it to love me and got married to me. If that is something she cares about, that is what I need to stop her from having. You steal something precious from me, I do the same to you so that we get even. That's how you live your life, at least that is what my mind kept telling me. I had always suspected that her love for me was not genuine, but I never imagined she would go to such lengths to secure her graduation. It became clear that her priorities were solely focused on achieving academic success, even if it meant deceiving me in the process. In order to level the playing field and make her understand the consequences of her actions, I felt compelled to retaliate and take away something equally valuable from her life. This was the only way I could ensure she truly comprehend the impact. I started my work on her assignments. I filled them with garbage. I sent explicit emails to her professors, which included graphic images of her trying to seduce them as well. I wanted to cover all bases. My only focus was to get her expelled. I knew that she could not plead guilty to her professors and let them know that she shared her login credentials with someone else. That would get her in trouble, as they would know that she was not the one doing her assignments. Either way, she would get expelled from university and not graduate. It looked like a foolproof plan. Within a day, she got to know what I had done. She and Liam came to my old house where I had started living after leaving our house that we recently purchased. I showed them in and sat there sipping my coffee. I knew that I had to act cool and let them have their say. Rachel started talking and asked me what I had done. I acted dumb. I asked her to remind me what exactly she was talking about, She said that I ruined her life by intentionally submitting crap assignments and also sending emails to her professors that were vulgar. She was devastated and couldn't understand why I would do such a thing. Liam, on the other hand, was furious and demanded an explanation for my actions. As they both continued to express their anger and disappointment, I started laughing hysterically. I told them that they looked too funny right now. They had nothing much to say and left. It did look like an achievement after what they had done to me. I thought that I would be satisfied by this, but I wasn't. The anger and rage did not die down. I knew Rachel was very good at telling stories and knew that all her professors adored her. She might be able to get out of it and still graduate. I had another idea in my head. The house that she and Liam were living in was under her name. I called my bank and asked them to take my name off the monthly payments and add my wife's name to it. The manager agreed to it. The same way, I made sure all the bills were put under her name as I had taken this house to move in with her. She had the responsibility to pay up for everything that I had spent on her so far. Till this point, I was taking care of all the bills as I loved her. Now there was no need to do anything for her. She and her good-for-nothing boyfriend, Liam, can handle all of this. I decided to move from this old house as well so that they don't track me down again. So this is what it has come to. 3 weeks ago was the happiest day of my life. I was imagining spending the rest of my life with someone so cunning and cruel. Today, I am left with nothing but sadness and anger. I was so gullible and naive to think that I could be worthy of love. I had believed that I had finally found someone who truly cared for me, but now it feels like a cruel joke. The pain of this betrayal cuts deep, leaving me questioning my self-worth and doubting my ability to trust again. I would like your support to know if you think what I have done is right and what I should do going forward. Never once did I imagine that my life would take such a drastic turn after meeting Rachel, who I thought was the love of my life. Update. Thank you for all the love and tones of advice that you guys sent across. Rachel had showed up at my work a few times asking me to pay the bills and the mortgage of the house. I told her that they were not under my name and I am not liable to pay any of it. She threatened me with divorce, which I knew was coming. I asked her to file for it and I am willing to go to court. I knew she did not have the money to hire a lawyer, and she was already in trouble with her assignments as I was not there to do them for her. I was finally feeling a sense of joy looking at her all stressed about things which she never had to worry about when she was with me. This should be a lesson to her to realize what she had lost in her selfish desires. I could see it on her face, the regret and the pain of deceiving me. I was meeting a lawyer for lunch when I saw her walking on the street. I didn't even want to give her 2 seconds of my life, so I just turned the other way. I noticed that she had entered the restaurant with another man. They sat at a table across from me, her head facing me. I first was expecting it to be a lawyer. I was hoping for Liam to follow her around like always. Something about the whole setup didn't feel right. The lawyer looked at where I was seeing and said that he was a businessman who had a new escort with him every time he went out to eat. So now this is what she was doing. Seducing rich old men to pay her bills. No wonder people say karma is a bitch. She had a wonderful life with me. All she had to do was forget her past and live a happy life with me. I have finally moved on from Rachel and the haunting experiences she gave me. She did teach me a lesson though. Never blindly believe a girl who is too hot and intelligent at the same time. They always have ulterior motives. Always question what they are going to get out of you, and also make sure that you get something out of them if you already know that you are going to get used by them. Well, I am not the kind of person who should be giving advice to others, but I would like to say to all the young people out there, not to fall too early and too fast in love. Always, always look for the red flags. Don't be blind like me, and please learn something from my mistakes. Listen to people around you, which I know can be difficult when you are smitten by love. Been there, done that. Choose your partner for life very, very carefully. And if something is bothering you, please speak up and ask them to choose. Don't be an idiot like me. I know this is all a rant. Let me just end it here. Take care, everyone, and thanks for listening.